Welcome everyone for another tutorial. Today's topic is modern string quartet. We are going to look into the structure, we're going to evaluate the tensions and how to build for today's modern music a string quartet. Let's get started. We are here to ask ourselves a couple of questions. First of all, do I know the string quartet well? Am I empowered when I write for one? Do I know the fundamental rules which I can use, right, to provide my own vision? What it takes to get there. So these are the real questions regarding the string quartet. You see, in today's technology, it's very easy to become ignorant because these virtual instruments, they provide us with a lot of information, the range, the sound, the articulation, even arpeggios, right? So I can just basically look at my screen and just improvise and come up with some melody lines here and there, or chords progression here and there, and include that sound of the string quartet into my arrangement. But does it indulge you? Is that the way you want to exist? Do you feel vulnerable by doing so? Do you feel honest and expanded as a music composer? Do you follow certain rules? You see, knowing fundamentals, that's the only way we can grab that empowerment in our own hands and move forward. Otherwise, we just compose by accident. And guess what? We come up with certain lines, we like them, but we have no idea what's possible out there. So we can't test different options because that's the option, that's it. There's no other choice. Let me ask you this. How many hours you spend on daily basis researching a music equipment for your recording studio? Audio interface. There's hours of research, reading, watching videos, listening the recommendations of others, microphones, MIDI interface, a piano keyboard, right? So there's a list of needs we need in order to build our music studio. So we spend hours, weeks, months researching and hoping that we'll have a budget to invest in that specific equipment. Now, how many of us put on daily basis effort to study a string quartet? Have you ever thought about doing a research on double bass, spending time with that instrument, writing for that instrument? How about cello? How about viola, violin? You get the idea. You see, when you have a foundation, you feel involved, which means you feel free, playful, and ready for your own research. And the research doesn't hurt because you expand from inside out and try to approach a specific subject or area of your music composition from different angles, and you start measuring them all. And based on the final experience, you make your final decisions. What takes you there? It's another question. And I think there are two factors involved. One of them is the basic understanding of what's going on, curiosity, a specific insight. Insight could be a knowledge of an instrument you're about to use, and also insight could be a harmony movement you're about to apply. These two factors, they have to come together. Your ear training, your personality, your creativity, all this talent you have, it's an additional piece what comes on top of these two earlier mentioned. There is no other way around. You can't depend on your talent only. You have to support it with the knowledge of the instrument, the range, articulation, and everything. Like, you develop the sense of it. And also there's a harmony movement. Like, you need to know where you're going. So this next slide, it's gonna explain it very well. Let's just take a look at this silly little example. Chords in a string quartet writing remind me of the subway station in New York City. Instead of calling it 7th Street, we are going to call it a B flat, major 7. That's our station. Our station got a specific flavor in mind. We've got 4 fundamental voicings to create that flavor. The voicings are built from double bass, cello, viola, violin. These 4 instruments supposed to bring this flavor of that subway station to us, to our ear. There's another subway station called D flat, major 7. And then another one. Let's just play E flat minor 7. It's another subway station. These 4 instruments, they end up in alignment, that specific vibration of that chord. So these are subway stations. What happened between these subway stations, it's our creativity based on the knowledge and your personality. All the voicings, they just dance around. They provide a different pathways to connect their melody movement, so you can flow from one chord to another in beautiful / interesting way. You cannot survive only on creativity and God's gifts. You need to provide the knowledge. The knowledge is how to build those chords and how to resolve. So each chord wants to be resolved on another chord and guided different ways. That is why it's so important that we look at our music composition from different angles and find a way to relate to your personality and also what you know and what's possible at that very moment of your music creation. But the bottom line is, between the stations, subway stations, the chords progression, there is something called ear training. There's something called your emotion and your creativity. You're going to use them all, but based on certain motif, right? You're about to share between those voicings, some here and there. However, the knowledge, the chords, the triads, 7 chords, the tensions, they exist in those subway stations. Chords progression. Chords progression continues. The train takes your composition from one chord to another. You visit different stations, you go through the music harmony movement, and you achieve a certain goals or certain results if you wish. Double bass, cello, viola, violin. Double bass, cello, viola, violins. We can always split one voice into 2. The same with the cello, the same with the double bass. and all of a sudden, violin first, second, viola first, second, cello first, second, bass first, second. You've got the idea. These stations, they operate based on triads, 7 chords, tensions, and also every single thing I just mentioned comes with inversions. So it's like a voicings resolution. When this voicings become more spread or more condensed that way, right? Or just they end up in a little cluster. But they move certain way. And it would be nice to basically understand and recognize which voicing goes where. However, the next example is going to show you the importance of bringing creativity to every single voicing. As a French horn player, I was looking for something good to play with. Something what catches my ear and gives my heart sing, makes my heart sing. Which means I want to be inspired by my melody line. Wouldn't it be wonderful to bring that aspect of your writing to every single instrument? So when you call musicians to play a piece, every single voicing got inspired by your writing. I want you to take a look at this writing. Every single instrument got its own line. The violin continues this way. And then the very next bar number 5 starts here and then continues. Viola, the same thing. And then second line. Cello, and okay? I want you to take a look how organized the writing is. So based from this writing, we can gain a lot of information. There is nothing about the articulation. However, there's everything about harmony movement. We used the treble clef twice, one for the viola, one for the violin. However, you know, if you create music for viola, you use alto clef. But for me as a composer, it's much easier in modern string quartet to use a treble clef and the bass clef only. When I look at the B flat major chord and I'm looking at a certain alignment, so this kind of technique helps me to recognize that alignment. I know that everything is fine, then I can select viola track and transpose everything into alto clef, no problem. These are subway stations. Chords progression: B flat major 7, D flat major 7, G flat major 7, E flat minus 7 into A flat 7 sus 4. What happens between? It's based on how you develop the motif, how you expand the chords the harmony movement, and also voicings, your ear training, and everything you are emotionally, physically, spiritually. Today, you just express between these voicings. However, just remember this. We've got 4 different sounds coming together. Make sure that every single voicing is interesting for the musician and the purpose of your music composition. Number 2, these individual voices need to sound well, not only in a grouping on 4, but also duets and trios. Let's listen to the string quartet first. Okay, I'm gonna pull the second page The second page is just continuation. So the way we are going to look at it, the first line jumps right here, and then jumps on the second page up and dies down. Everything else, all the instruments follow the same rules, pathway. Okay, so let's just hear it first. Okay, chords progression continues. There's a chord after chord after chord. No matter where you are with this process, I could be totally satisfied with just triads only, which means triads, 3 notes, one of them is gonna be doubled, right? Or just play it in unison by one of the instruments. Now, the chord changes for another chord. Knowing the inversions is gonna save us a big time, because we are going to resolute this chord to this chord in the closest way possible. Now, what happens between subway stations, how we guide the melody line, it's up to us. We use the motif. We use our ear training and also common sense, logic, knowledge. Everything comes to that right space of our creation. We mentioned that it would be wonderful if these sounds sound wonderful in the groupings of 2 and 3 voices as well. So what we are going to do next, we are going to eliminate a bass line, and we are going to provide only one violin, viola, and cello. Okay, so let's just listen once again and see what happens.